Somewhere out there, on a cold and dusty planet painted in rust and silence, a second Earth is slowly being imagined into existence. You see a horizon drenched in crimson light, endless dunes shifting beneath alien winds, and in the distance a glimmer. A dome. A city. Not in theory, not in a novel, but in plans being drawn, metal being cut, and rockets being tested right now. This is not science fiction anymore. It's science, barely ahead of the present. And the question on everyone's mind is no longer if we'll build a city on Mars. It's when. It's tempting to believe this all began with Elon Musk. In a way, it did, but only because he turned a decades-old whisper into a global shout. Long before SpaceX, humans had looked toward Mars and wondered. Ray Bradbury wrote stories of Martian towns with balconies and bathtubs. Scientists mapped it from orbit. Dreamers filled it with domes and civilization. But for most of human history, Mars remained the backdrop to fiction, never the blueprint of a plan. Then came the robots. In 1997, the Sojourner rover rolled across Martian soil, transmitting ghostly images of a barren world. In 2012, NASA's Curiosity rover sent back something new, evidence that Mars was once wet, perhaps warm, and possibly habitable. The red rock held secrets, and those secrets gave Mars a pulse. It was no longer a dead planet. It was a mystery waiting for footsteps. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a man with wild hair and a love for impossible odds stood on a stage and laid out a vision. Not just to visit Mars, not just to land, but to stay. Elon Musk called it the Interplanetary Transport System, later renamed Starship. He did not want to send a flag. He wanted to send a population. 1 million people on Mars by 2050. At the time, it seemed ludicrous. Science fiction dressed up as a tech keynote. But while the world scoffed, Musk built rockets. They flew. They landed. They exploded and then flew again. By the mid-2020s, Starship was not a dream. It was a real, towering stainless steel vehicle undergoing launch tests in Texas. One prototype even brushed the edges of space, and suddenly, a pathway was forming not in theory, but in hardware. As 2025 unfolds, the Starship design has matured. Fully reusable, more powerful than any rocket before it, and optimized not just for Earth orbit, but interplanetary transfer. The Mars architecture is clear. Send uncrewed starships in 2026. Use them to land supplies, test infrastructure, and maybe even deploy early autonomous construction equipment. Then, in 2028 or 2031, if things slip, send the first crew. The chosen landing zone, Arcadia Planitia, a relatively smooth plain dotted with underground ice deposits. Water is life, and Mars has more of it than once believed. Frozen beneath the surface, it can be mined, melted, purified. It can support life, and it might even become rocket fuel. At the same time, NASA is not sitting still. The Artemis program is pushing toward a moon base by 2030, and the knowledge gained their habitat design, long-term life support, deep space radiation protection is paving the way for Mars. In Houston, volunteers live inside 3D printed Martian habitats, participating in year-long simulations of isolation, confinement, and resource scarcity. Their mission isn't flashy, but it's vital. It answers a question that tech can't. Can people really live this far from home? Meanwhile, machines are already at work. On Mars, NASA's Perseverance rover is collecting soil samples to be returned to Earth. China's Zhurong rover is mapping terrain. European agencies are planning for autonomous drilling rigs. The Martian frontier is busy, though so far, only robots have left footprints. But what happens when humans arrive? That's where the vision gets wild. Mars is not kind. Temperatures average minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Its atmosphere is less than 1% the density of Earth's, made mostly of carbon dioxide. Radiation from cosmic rays and solar flares seeps in, unfiltered by any magnetic field. Mars is not just another Earth. It's a test of survival. To succeed, we'll have to live off the land. Early settlers won't ship everything from Earth. It's too expensive, too slow. They'll build with Martian soil, using 3D printers to form bricks and shelters. They'll extract water from ice, generate oxygen from CO2, and grow food in pressurized hydroponic greenhouses. Every atom will matter. That's why the phrase in-situ resource utilization has become the mantra of Mars missions. If we can't live with what's already there, we won't last. Early buildings will be functional, not beautiful, more bunker than condo. Spacesuits will be worn daily, radiation shielding will line the walls, and every breath will be counted. And yet, that's how cities start. Even communication will be different. Because of the distance, messages between Earth and Mars will lag between 5 and 20 minutes. In other words, no real-time calls. Mars settlers will need to make their own decisions. They all need autonomy, maybe even their own government. That's where things get even more interesting. Musk has hinted at a self-governing Martian society, free from Earth laws. But current space treaties, like the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, prohibit any nation or company from claiming territory in space. Still, once humans are living and working on another planet, it's hard to imagine they'll answer to lawyers on Earth. Will Mars become the birthplace of a new civilization, a clean slate, where new political systems, social norms, and economic models can evolve? Or will it carry the same flaws we brought to every corner of Earth? Back on Earth, the effects of this Mars ambition are already rippling outward. Technologies developed for Martian survival are being adapted for Earth. Advanced solar panels, closed-loop water systems, zero-waste farming. The drive to colonize another planet is accelerating solutions for our own. In that sense, Mars isn't an escape, it's a catalyst. Economically, space is booming. What was once the domain of national agencies is now shared by tech giants and scrappy startups. Mars is no longer just a destination, it's the next frontier in a trillion-dollar space economy. And philosophically, the idea that humans could become interplanetary is changing how we see ourselves. If we can live on Mars, then Earth becomes both our birthplace and our past. But none of this is guaranteed. Starship still needs to perfect orbital refueling, a mission-critical technology that's never been done before. No humans have been exposed to the radiation levels they'll experience en route to Mars. Life support systems must work for years, not months. And even if the first mission lands safely, the second might not. A single failure could halt the whole enterprise. A medical emergency, a crash landing, a resource miscalculation, any of these could make Mars uninhabitable, not in theory, but in real time. And yet, the dream persists. Because beneath all the calculations and engineering, Mars represents something more than a place to live. It's a symbol of survival, of exploration, of reinvention. Musk often frames it in dramatic terms. We need to become a multi-planetary species. He's not alone. Many scientists and visionaries agree. Mars is not a distraction from Earth's problems, it's a contingency, a backup for civilization. If climate change, pandemics, AI threats, or nuclear war were to devastate Earth, a second home could save the species. It's a sobering thought, but in some ways, it's the oldest story we've ever told. Humanity reaching for the unknown, building new worlds where none existed before. So, how close are we really? Closer than ever. The rockets are being built. The simulations are underway. The first materials are already on their way. But a real city on Mars where people live, love, argue, and grow old is still decades away. Not impossible, just hard. If all goes to plan, the first cargo ships will touch down around 2026. Humans could follow in the early 2030s. The first settlements will resemble Antarctic bases, tough, temporary, and tiny. But by the 2040s, we might see real growth. Villages with autonomous power, food production, and maybe even children born under a pink sky. Will it look like the movies? Probably not. Will it work? That depends on us. Now imagine this. It's the year 2050. You look up at the night sky, and somewhere, on that tiny dot of red light, there are thousands of people living in a city humans built. They grow food in biodomes, mine ice for water, and walk across soil that no foot had touched for billions of years until now. And maybe, just maybe, they'll look back at Earth with wonder, the way we once looked at Mars. This isn't just science. This is a story. One of risk, ambition, and awe. A story that's still unfolding. So don't look away. The rocket engines are already warming up. The domes are being sketched. The next chapter is being written not in ink, but in fire and stardust. Stay curious, stay tuned, because when someone takes that first breath on Mars and calls it home, you'll want to remember that you were here, watching, wondering at the very beginning. If you're as fascinated as we are by this giant leap, if you want to witness the first city born on another world, then you've landed in the right orbit. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a mission update, a deep dive, or a peek into humanity's boldest frontier.